If Rob Reiner were still alive, Jane Fonda said, she would never have spoken, and she kept that truth hidden for decades, speaking only after his death at the age of 88, not on a red carpet or in an interview, but in quiet reflection on a love the world never knew. Hollywood had long seen her as a symbol, beautiful, strong, controversial, constantly in the public eye, yet behind that facade existed a painful, unspoken connection with a man who made her feel seen not as a role, not as an icon, not as Hanoi Jane or Henry Fonda's daughter, but as a human being, and for that reason, she chose silence while he lived. Rob Reiner was absent from the familiar narratives of her life. He was neither husband nor collaborator, rarely mentioned, and that absence highlighted the rarity of their bond, a connection that began in the late 1970s during private gatherings in Los Angeles, quiet moments without cameras, without expectation, where neither sought to define the other or rush the encounter. Jane, emerging from tumultuous personal and public experiences, and Rob, transitioning from acting to directing, did not meet through fate or dramatic spark, but through lingering conversations, the patient attention of one to the other, recognizing a safety neither had known. Throughout the 1980s, as Jane faced political backlash and public condemnation, Rob remained largely invisible to the outside world, yet they corresponded through letters, phone calls, and rare private meetings, never naming their bond, understanding that the smallest word spoken at the wrong time could fracture lives, because at their stage, love was less about desire and more about responsibility. In his presence, Jane did not have to perform, she was not evaluated for her body, her image, or her fame, and that calm intimacy was both revolutionary and dangerous for someone who had spent decades surviving as a spectacle, separated from her own body, scrutinized, and forced to claim worth through control and appearance. With Rob, she was free to be herself, and that freedom created a connection too fragile for the public gaze, one that could only exist at the margins of life, unclaimed, unexposed, sustained through restraint and quiet presence. They understood the cost of naming it. Rob had a family, Jane a relentless public life, and both knew that stepping over the line would destroy the delicate equilibrium that allowed them to exist alongside each other without harm. Silence was not absence but protection, preserving a closeness that would have been lost to the glare of judgment. When Rob passed away in December 2025, that silence could finally end, and Jane spoke, not to reclaim the past, not to create a romantic legend, but to acknowledge a truth she had carried privately for decades, a truth about being seen, understood, and valued in a way the world had never allowed. Speaking then, she did not seek forgiveness or recognition, because nothing remained to defend or explain, only memory, only honesty with herself. Theirs was a love that never needed validation, a bond that existed fully only in quiet discretion, shaped by mutual respect and the wisdom to know that some connections cannot survive exposure, and that living honestly sometimes requires restraint, even when the heart longs to act. Jane Fonda's reflection is not about scandal or missed opportunity, but about the courage to preserve the essential, the quiet understanding that some truths, like some loves, are meant to exist without applause, without witness, until the moment comes when speaking no longer risks destruction, and in that, the world glimpses not only the woman behind the icon, but the profound, lifelong lesson that being truly seen is sometimes the greatest gift we can receive and quietly protect.